Hi, my name is Jay Sugarman, and I want to welcome you to Innovation Showcase. The main purpose of this ongoing series is to inform viewers about exciting innovations and creative individuals across the fields of business, science, technology, education, and the arts. Today, we're exploring a fascinating intersection of history, storytelling, and emerging technology. Our guest is Dylan Husted, founder and CEO of See Reality, a company that is transforming the way we engage with the past through immersive, augmented, and virtual reality experiences. Dylan and his team are using cutting edge technology not just to entertain, but to educate, preserve cultural heritage, and inspire curiosity by bringing history to life in remarkable new ways. One of C Reality's most exciting initiatives is Relive 1776, an immersive experience that transports participants into the events surrounding America's founding. Rather than viewing history from the sidelines, visitors become active participants, gaining a deeper understanding of the people, places, and decisions that shaped our nation. During our conversation, we'll learn about Dylan's entrepreneurial journey, the vision behind Reality, the creative and technical challenges of building historically accurate immersive experiences, and how technologies like augmented reality, virtual reality, and artificial intelligence are opening entirely new possibilities for education, museums, tourism, and public engagement. Let's start by meeting Dylan and then finding out all about See Reality. Welcome, Dylan. So delighted you're able to be here.
Thanks for having me, Jay. Great to see you again.
It's been fascinating reading about sea reality. Can't wait to experience it. But for now, eager to find out more and have you inform viewers. Before we jump right to that, would you please start by sharing just a little bit more about your background and professional interests, please?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I actually went to Babson College out in Wellesley, Massachusetts. Back in high school, I had actually tried to convince my parents to let me skip college and take the money set aside for that to start a company. So I've known for a very long time that I wanted to become an entrepreneur and start my own business. Got a little ahead of my skis there back then. They put me back on the rails and had me go to college. But that's where my journey began. I actually started a company out of my dorm room, came on the Innovation Showcase program all the way back then in 2015, as you know. Ran that company for a few years and got some good traction. We got into about 15 colleges in the area as customers, and it was a really fun journey and experience for us. But ultimately, didn't quite work out financially as a company. So I then took the next 8 years or so to actually work as a software engineer. So I
Hmm.
to build that first company, I'd learned web development, computer science, and so I took those skills and started working for other tech startups. And yeah, in 2024, I grabbed the reins again and started See Reality.
So, what inspired you to start to create See Reality? What was your vision, the mission that you encountered?
Yeah, it's a really cool moment. And actually, this is a very timely week to bring this up because we have some good news from our company regarding this. But I was actually on a trip to the Temple of Artemis, Ephesus area in Turkey. So, we're visiting ancient Greek sites in modern day Turkey. And we went to this place called the Temple of Artemis, which is an ancient wonder of the world. It's on the list from the famous philosopher that wrote that list and talked about the pyramids of Giza and the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. And that list ends with saying there's no place greater than the Temple of Artemis. Okay, so I was
Wow.
very, very excited to go to this place. I love history and I was interested. But when I got there, it was just a field with one pillar that remains.
Ah.
And I didn't quite expect that. Didn't do as much research as I should have. And I was kind of complaining to my girlfriend about this, and she jokingly said, "Well, why don't you put it in your VR headset, and then you can see this Temple of Artemis you want to see so bad." And I thought about it for a second, and I was like, "That's actually a great idea." And me and her were talking about it more and more. and realized there could be a real business opportunity there, and not with virtual reality, but with, as you said, augmented reality, extended reality, these more modern technologies that actually blend the real world with the digital. There's kind of a light bulb moment for both of us. We want to bring the Temple of Artemis back where it once stood in its former glory. Um, the reason this is good news this week is we actually just signed a deal with a company in Turkey that is going to be implementing our Temple of Artemis XR
Oh,
experience.
that's
Yeah.
fabulous.
Yeah, so it's a little over about 2 years, I think, and a couple months on the dot. We are launching the original idea for the company. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Well, I know in a short time we're gonna find out and get a little sense from a wonderful video clip of Relive 1776. Before we jump right to that, can you give us
Yeah.
a sense of the team that works with you, the different roles and positions that contribute to what we're gonna enjoy an example of?
Yeah, absolutely. So I myself am an engineer. I still contribute quite a bit to the development of our experiences, but increasingly I've done more business development, marketing work as the CEO of the company. We have 6 people on the product team, so 3 artists, 3D artists, environment artists, and 3 engineers who are like me, building functionality out, interaction, and things like that. And then we have 2 folks on our sales team who are helping with outreach, customer meetings, going to events and trade shows, and showing our technology.
What do you think makes immersive storytelling that you're involved with so much more powerful than traditional educational experiences?
It's a great question. And, we've seen it so much on our tours, this kind of light bulb moment with our customers of all ages and backgrounds and people all over the world. There seems to be something um, very tangible about an immersive experience that appeals to something human and all of us. So to go to a historic site and hear from a narrator, a guide, or read a sign that tells you about the history is an important experience, but to us, it's the first step. And you're kind of imagining a little bit what event took place here, what society lived here, building was, structure was here, and you can picture it a little bit. But when you can actually see it life size in front of you, like as if you're traveling to that time, all of it really clicks. Everything, all the historical information you had learned about or heard about becomes real to you. And
Mhm.
so, it's sort of a magical moment, a magical feeling. And what we find is people do tell us that they learn so much more like this and remember so much more about the history this way.
How do you and your team go about balancing the historical accuracy of the event or the location with creating an engaging and emotionally compelling experience?
It is such a challenge for us because we do take historical accuracy very seriously, but at the same time, we have to keep people entertained and get their enthusiasm up, right? And so we try not to start with a lot of just facts or details. We try to start with something very fun and engaging, and then bring up the facts and details. So usually we're able to marry the history with that experience. And there is a moment we can show at the start that is very engaging and accurate. And that's how we kind of do it. So, for example, we're doing a project with the Colosseum in Rome, and we
Mm.
are going to be showing, some history there. And we're starting with a gladiator appearing in front of you with a sword, and you could pick up a sword and kind of fake duel with the gladiator, right? When you start with that, people are very excited, they're very engaged, they're remembering things, and then we can transition to, why the gladiator's armor is the way it is, and facts about the Colosseum itself and people not that would be in the audience at the time and historical events of that nature. But we try to start with something really fun.
How do you decide which historical stories or locations are maybe the best candidates for immersive storytelling?
I think a key formula is something that no longer exists today, like that Temple of Artemis example I
Mm.
gave you, but there is still foot traffic to the place, right? So it is a famous enough event or interesting enough physical place in the real world today, that people are going there and reading a sign about it, but then when they turn and look, there's not much to see. That's where an immersive experience can add that missing element really well. There are, of course, many other amazing immersing experiences, we can create that don't match that exact formula, but that seems to be a clear winner for us when we can find it.
Well, definitely one of the most traveled, foot-worthy areas in the country is right here in the Boston area with the Freedom Trail. How did that contribute and lead to the development of what Relive 1776 is all about?
Yeah, absolutely. So, when we decided to start this company, we had the idea. Starting something in Turkey felt daunting. That seemed like a difficult task for us to pull off. So we decided let's keep it closer to home. What can we do nearby that is similar? And of course, Massachusetts and Boston are rich with revolutionary history, and the Freedom Trail is a famous route that highlights a lot of that really well. And so I was actually showing my girlfriend, who was new to Boston at the time, I was just showing her Boston in general, and we were walking the Freedom Trail as a way to do that. And we realized along the way, there's actually a chronological story that you can thread together of a series of different events. And
Mhm.
it culminates at Bunker Hill with the Battle of Bunker Hill, which is sort of this major turning point. America doesn't win the Revolutionary War there, but it's certainly the turning point that leads to the win. And we thought that could create a great send off. And so it kind of clicked for us that we could create a few different experiences on the trail as a walking tour, and be able to do a guided tour that goes in chronological order. We thought that would create a really interesting story that people would remember.
In addition to the technology that's involved in your work, how do you go about, say, for the Relive 1776, the historical research that you need before you apply it to the technology, with the technology?
Yeah, well, we try to take a first pass using what we can find from as credible internet sources as we can find. And then we usually take that and try to work with a local historian or high volume tour operator that's known to be
Hmm.
very historically accurate, or a foundation of some kind, and have some of the details vetted. And so what we find is if we create the version first ourselves, we can show that to someone and they can right away point out what needs to change. But if we start with just tell us about the history, then we end up in an endless conversation about way too many historical facts and
Yeah.
details.
As I mentioned, we're fortunate to have a wonderful clip that you've assembled that viewers and others can find on your website. Before we roll it in and have you provide some commentary, can you give us an overview of what we're going to experience?
Yeah, so it's really important. Maybe I show a headset briefly. So basically, we're going to see mostly a recording from within this device. And the way this device works is you can hold it up in front of your face like this. We use it kind of like goggles, or you can actually strap it to your head. But even though your eyes are covered, you can see the real world through these three cameras on the
Mm,
front. And so what you're going to see might be a little confusing at first, because you'll see real people walking by, you'll see Faneuil Hall in Boston, and then you'll also see a digital Revolutionary War field cannon, for example, and other digital items. And so, yeah, it's an in-headset recording of some of our experiences in Boston.
okay, let's roll the clip. And again, feel free to offer any commentary of what we're enjoying.
Sure. So this clip was done at Faneuil Hall. Typically, this experience is actually done on the water, looking at Bunker Hill over in Langone Park, but we're showing it at Faneuil Hall because we used to have a booth there where people could come and do all of our experiences. What you're seeing is somebody's picking up actual or digital cannonballs and gunpowder, loading it in the cannon, and then they can actually fire the cannon with a linstock by pointing the ember end into the hole of the cannon. and they can actually fire a cannonball at a ship. Again, that's normally in the water. From here, we're seeing what it looks like if you were to walk by people on our tour. So they have
Hmm.
a VR headset on their head,
Yeah,
outdoors, but they can see you, they can see the real world, and engage with the content. And in this example, this was actually made for Faneuil Hall. So you're seeing, uh, 18th century street market, the
that's
kind of
fabulous.
yeah, the kind of items people could buy in Faneuil Hall at that time. So we did a lot of research around, what food they did or didn't have. For example, there were no tomatoes because they were thought to be poisonous at the time. And so there's a lot of interesting narration as you go through that experience. And then in this one, you're seeing actually the Boston Massacre. It's not overly violent, but you are seeing Crispus Attucks throwing rocks
Mhm.
at soldiers, other people that were in the crowd that day, and you yourself can throw rocks at the soldiers and interact with them. Now, because that one's a little violent, we made a funny version where they just do dance moves,
Yeah,
backflips,
that's great.
silly things like that. We actually called this the kids version, but what we found is the kids love the real version and the parents love the dancing version. And yeah, that's kind of a good mix of the types of content you can see. You can't hear, but there's historical narration, there's characters that speak to you, and you can learn a little bit about the history that way. And you're actually picking things up with your real world hands. So there's no
Hmm.
controllers. You're just grabbing things in the real world. And what we find is people of all ages, all backgrounds seem to really find this intuitive and enjoy it. Um, and then now you're seeing some content from our other projects around the world. This is Stonehenge, for example, to show you the scale. We can do very
Hmm.
large life-size scale of monuments. And finally, this was our booth that we ran for. We had a temporary contract with Faneuil Hall last summer to do an actual booth that anybody could walk up to and basically rent the VR headsets for half an hour. Yeah.
Do you
So
notice differences between, as we're seeing a young girl here, age groups and how they take to the experience?
absolutely. A big surprise for us has been that it does appeal to everybody. So we often have grandparents doing it with grandchildren, people in wheelchairs, people as young as you saw there or younger, and that's great. But the very young demographic for us, of course, really loves it, is used to technology like this and needs very little instruction. And it's very hard to actually get the headset back from them because they just want to keep doing it, doing it over and over. Whereas the parents kind of, or any adult engages with it, finds it really interesting, and then might interact with the guide and ask clarifying questions and learn more details. The kids want to keep triggering the different interactions with their hands.
That's fabulous. That's fabulous. What surprised you most after people began experiencing your immersive productions?
Well, what's been really exciting for us is there is kind of an organic growth we're having where once people experience it, they're just so excited. Like we have our customers on our tours sometimes even go and just like grab strangers on the street and be like, listen to me, you have to try this. And they're just like so overjoyed that um, you know this experience exists. And so we're finding a lot of word of mouth marketing for our company. We're finding a lot of people, friends of customers we've introduced to, or businesses we're working with, referring other businesses with no incentive other than they just think this is really exciting and more people should be exposed to it. And I think the key thing there that we've tapped into, which again is a surprise that we weren't expecting, is virtual reality appeared and has been around a while now, and a lot of us have experienced it. And I think in general, the world has very high hopes for the concept of it. But the reality of what a lot of people experienced was like they would get motion sickness and nausea, or it'd be very
Hmm.
uncomfortable, or they would accidentally hit something in the real world like a wall or their TV in their living room or something. And so people have actually really had a lot of negative experiences with the technology. And then when they experience the way we've constructed it using mixed reality or extended reality, there's this light bulb that clicks for them that like, hey, wait, this is actually for me. I wasn't expecting this was for me. I got it for my kid, but I love it too. And I'm so excited about that. That's what we hear a lot of.
Nice. What role does artificial intelligence play in your work today, and how do you see that maybe changing in the future?
It's you know, been an incredible tool for us. At the start, it was basically my teacher teaching me how to do game development because I didn't have a game development background, and it was very informational. But that was 2024. So now a couple years later, I've been stunned at the pace with which artificial intelligence has advanced its capabilities, and it really is integrated into all of our workflows and pipelines at this point to dramatically speed up our development. So, um, you know, our designers are usually using AI to actually create 3D models, a first version of a 3D model that's
Mm.
maybe 70% of the way there, and then they can sculpt and modify that base creation instead of starting from zero. And so it's really a huge time savings for us. With animations, it's been massive. We're actually doing
Mm.
motion capture like a Hollywood movie with iPhones. So we're no green screen, no weird suits. Like you and I on Zoom could do motion capture right now, and AI would be able to translate that into real
Oh,
animations. It's pretty amazing.
most definitely, most definitely. What have you learned about how people absorb information maybe differently when they're immersed inside a story instead of simply reading about it or just walking by a historical monument?
It's absolutely a game changer. It's very exciting for us. It's kind of the impact behind our company that motivates us is we continue to see almost every participant that we have really light up and get excited about history. So we have a lot of people who tell us, I'm not that interested in history. I'm not that into technology. I'm just here because my family wanted to book this. And then within seconds of the first experience, you see their whole disposition change and they ask a lot of questions. They get very excited. You know, why did Paul Revere go that direction? Well, you know, they start asking all these tangible questions and really learning and getting excited about it. And it's because it became real for them. I think it's not just some conceptual story they read in a textbook or something. It feels like they just took part in real life, just like anything else they might be interested in.
Have you had any feedback or even input from educators, museums, cultural institutions?
Yeah, there's definitely an interest there, and especially when we do demos with them or we do some demos with their customers and they see what I'm talking about with the excitement that gets generated around their subject matter. It's been a little bit of a difficult industry for us to commercialize so far. So we
Hmm.
have some exciting conversations, but as a very young company, I think I think a lot of these institutions feel we have more to prove at this stage before they're ready, but I think that's a really exciting area for us long term.
Definitely. No, especially the exciting news about your development in Turkey
Yeah.
now is fantastic. Beyond history, what other subjects or industries do you believe immersive experiences can transform?
Oh, there's so many, and even within history, the more you think about it, the more you realize it's everywhere. It's almost every street corner, you know, in the world. There's something interesting to show. So for us, history and tourism is the main attraction. But you know, in other areas, there's you know studios famous TV or movie studios that you know people visit. There's a lot that you can bring to life there. Um, there's even like we have one customer that's a restaurant and they do a lobster fishing experience with us because
Oh,
it's a big
fabulous.
attraction is lobster and um, it's kind of challenging to go out on a boat and actually learn about lobster fishing. So we created a VR lobster fishing historic lobster fishing experience for them. And so you know what we're finding is we're getting approached by lots of different you know industries and use cases that we didn't anticipate.
Hmm.
training, a lot of like industrial training applications. Um, there's um, one airline approached us and talked about like a first class an experience for first class members while they're on the plane and things like that. And so, um, you know, there's really a wide range of things. Museums and arts, sort of, you can imagine like paintings coming to life, people stepping out of paintings and being animated in the real world. And again, everything I'm talking about here is augmented reality and extended reality. But as you said, immersive experiences, there's a lot more that can go into that with, um, audio, visual experiences, projectors, and things like that.
Hmm. Whether it's these instances that you just mentioned or some of the historical uh, examples that we've seen, what do you hope visitors, participants take out of the experience once they've enjoyed the technology that you've provided?
For me, it's all about enthusiasm. I think, that's sort of what I live for is I want to be enthusiastic about my life. I want other people to be enthusiastic about their life and their day. And when it comes to, history, engaging in history, learning about it, enthusiasm to me is the necessary core. So that's where we find people who say they're not that interested in it, suddenly becoming very, very interested in it. What they're really saying is they're not that enthusiastic about it. Right. But if we can use certain technologies to create that enthusiasm, it's really amazing how much people can learn. And for us, history is, uh, we think, one of the most important things for people to learn about is what are the stories of the past that we can learn from to prevent repeating in the future, or
Nice.
if they're successful stories, to repeat in the future.
Mhm. Looking ahead, where do you envision see reality maybe 5 years from now?
For us, we've really kind of dialed in on tourism and usually historical applications for it. So, in the 5-year roadmap, we're really looking at how can we be basically globally in every major tourism destination, with a B2B business model. So we have our own tour in Boston, but what we've now switched to is actually selling and licensing our content and technology to other tour providers. And what we're
Oh,
finding is that we're expanding very rapidly. I mentioned Rome, Pompeii, Turkey,
yeah.
Venice. So we're expanding in Europe, US, Canada, Barcelona, Egypt, also coming
Wow.
soon. So yeah, we have our first 10 or so customers, and they're in some of the biggest destinations, and we're really excited about that as our core. But what we want to do from there is create a platform that other people can grow with us very rapidly, so we can spread this kind of experience to all of the destinations that we can
Wow,
find.
that's so exciting to hear. Going back just a few years or so from your somewhat disappointing experience in Turkey to where you've evolved to today and the exciting future that you've just laid out for us. Unfortunately, Dylan, we've come to the end of the program. How can viewers and others find out more, keep in touch on future See Reality developments?
Absolutely. Please visit seereality.world. That's our website, seereality.world. You'll find, a contact form there. You'll find tickets you can buy, social media links at the bottom. Any way you can engage with our company is, of course, amazing. Even if you just want to email in and say hi. The best way to help us, though, is certainly if you know somebody, an educator, a museum curator or director, a tour operator, even just a tour guide, someone that you think might find this interesting. We would love to meet them and chat about what this might look like.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, before sure to put the website and other contact information in the closing credits. But as I said, unfortunately, we've come to the end of the program. I want to thank you again so much for taking time to be here. Exciting to hear about what you've been involved with and the bright future ahead. And just want to wish you continued success with future endeavors.
Thanks so much, Jay. Great to see you again. And maybe, I don't know, another 10 years I'll come back on and we could sync up at that point.
If not before, for sure,
Sure.
for sure. Also want to thank those of you watching for joining us and hope you'll be able to tune in next time.